Today's show is sponsored by Yafa Bay and her Spirit of Tepereth Marketplace. For you and your naturally special gifts, we of the Spirit of Tepereth, through our metaphysical market located at 1273 West Broad Street in Columbus, desire to provide you guidance and support through this, your life's journey. We provide tools such as candles, incense, charms, jewelry, wall hangings, oils, crystals, and much more. We look forward to spiritual growth with you at the Spirit of Tepereth. You can find all our sponsors' information in the show notes on our website. Now let's start the show.
The controversial group leader in charge, ADOS, or the American descendants of ADOS. The controversial group ADOS. ADOS, or the American descendants of the controversial group ADOS. ADOS, the American descendants of the controversial group ADOS. The controversial group ADOS.
Welcome to the Articles of ADOS podcast, a weekly show where we bring you undiscussed news, articles, and information important to the American descendants of slavery, our friends, and our allies. This is episode 2. I am your host, Lisa Todd, along with my co-host,
Daoud Giazan. On today's show, we will share articles from CNBC, The Guardian, The Intercept. Later in the show, stay tuned for our main event, where we dive into and interview the article, Representative Joyce Beatty gentrified her way into political trouble. Are you busy? Is the news coming so fast you can barely keep up? No worries. The Articles of ADOS podcast is here to help. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening right now, and we'll make sure you stay up to date on the news and information that affects you and your ADOS life.
This week in our personality piece, I'm going to pose a question that forces our personalities to come forth. Because we have those, right?
Right.
So this question is ADOS controversial, as our intro suggests, as well as the news reports and articles that we have featured in suggest? Are we controversial?
Yes, we are.
In what way would you say we're controversial?
We're coming back through one of the pieces we read in Rapid News, where the discussion of reparations and call for reparations has always been controversial, always been resistant among the established order. So we're going to be controversial no matter what we do. It's also happening at a time when there's great racial demographic shifts in the country that we are also responding to, as well as the economic shifts where more and more wealthier people are able to hold on and transfer their wealth without having to do a day of work. And that definitely leaves us out. So we're coming at a very critical time, which is controversial in itself, and we are appropriately responding to it, which is always going to be seen as controversial.
I agree. I also think that when they describe us in that way, from their viewpoint, it's something negative. Mm-hmm. Of course, I put it in our intro because if you feel that we're controversial, okay, that's what we are. Now, what are reparations?
There you go.
Continue. Continue with whatever you want to call us, and the ask does not change. The debt does not change. I accept that role as being controversial. In my view, I don't see it as negative. I see it as disruptive. However you feel about what we're asking for, we're going to disrupt that. Mm-hmm. And so if that means we're controversial, I'm okay with that. And I'll play it every week, right in the intro.
Catch the fire. If you're ADOS, an ally, or friend, we encourage you to connect with a local ADOS chapter and help change your local politics. Our ADOS Ohio chapter in Columbus meets every fourth Sunday of the month. For more information on the time and location, visit adoscolumbus.org.
If you also need more information on the ADOS movement, our politics, and the agenda, please visit ADOS101.com.
Today in Rapid News Reports, we have some articles that you may have missed that in some way affect you and your ADOS life.
From your web, we have an article called Who or What Decides who is or not black enough. Quote, Alvin Bernard Tillery Jr., PhD and Associate Professor of Political Science at Northwestern University states, they've attracted pushback because they have the radical thesis that if there's going to be reparations for slavery, that it should really only be targeted to persons who are the descendants or legacies of actual American slaves. He says the reason why there is so much backlash against ADOS is that as black people, the skin color is paramount to unity and belonging. This type of activism is creating a divide in a community that is already vulnerable to outside factors. The writer, Fisher Jack, and the score I give is okay.
From the publication Black Gender Report, titled, Fear Pervades Black Politics and Makes Us Agents of Our Own Oppression. Black voters in South Carolina kicked off Joe Biden's political resurrection last Saturday and stuck with the worthless corporate hack through Super Tuesday's primary contest. Although the craving blackness leadership class will no doubt shout hallelujahs that hands that pick cotton now pick presidents and claim black voters exercise brilliant strategic judgment in making themselves indispensable to the corporate Democratic Party establishment, the true motivator of black Biden supporters is a pervasive and deeply corrosive fear. Not just dread of 4 more years of Trump, although that is central to black political behavior, but abject terror at the very thought that the Democratic Party, our party, in many black folks' minds, might fracture under the challenge of the Sandinistas. Writer, Glenn Ford. I grade this a very good, on-point article, letting people know the underpinnings of what motivated Biden's win in South Carolina.
Next up, an article from The Hill titled, Sanders says Biden winning African American support by running with his ties to Obama. Bernie Sanders said Wednesday that his Democratic presidential primary opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, is winning African American voters' support by running on his ties to President Obama. Asked by MSNBC's Rachel Maddow on his inability to win over black voters, Sanders said he's running against somebody who has touted his relationship with Barack Obama throughout the entirety of his campaign, adding that Obama is enormously popular with the majority of Democrats and African American voters. Written by Rebecca Clark. I give this article an okay. It only summarized the interview that Bernie Sanders had with Rachel Maddow. You might as well just go and watch the interview.
We have from the online alternative news source, Democracy Now!, titled, Justice Denied, 50 Years of Supreme Court Rulings That Gutted Civil Rights, Voting Rights, and Expanded Inequality. Lawyer and journalist Adam Cohen discusses his new book, Supreme Inequality, which argues the U.S. Supreme Court has blocked social progress and expanded inequality over the last 5 decades. He examines in detail the court's gutting of the landmark 1965 Voting Rights Act in 2013, its controversial 2010 Citizens United ruling that opened the floodgates for unlimited corporate spending on election campaigns, and its 2007 rejection of Lilly Ledbetter's claim of pay discrimination at a tire plant in Alabama where she worked for 19 years. Mr. Cohen states, I think that the Democratic candidates for president need to be talking more about the importance of the Supreme Court and reminding people that we don't want a far-right Supreme Court that will strike down major federal laws that we all rely on. Written by Adam Cohen and Democracy Now! Staff. I rate this broadcast a good. It solidly identifies the problems that a virtual alt-right Supreme Court has presented for ADOS life. And finally, we have
an article from The Reporter titled African American Groups Educating Communities About Census. Latricia Alford with BWOPA and Census Lead and Coordinator in the Solano County, Vallejo area for my Black Count studies have shown that the African American community has been undercounted. She continued, so organizations like BWOPA are doing all they can to raise awareness. There are 30 Black-led organizations at the forefront of information, Alfred pointed out, we're trying to reach Generation Xers, Generation Ys, Millennials, Boomers, and everyone. The undercount could be because people move, become homeless, or are incarcerated, she said. Many are just scared. Written by Kimberly K. Fu. I rated this article good. It's good to get the information out there that is important for ADOS to be counted. The census is used to count and give us resources. Every community needs resources, especially ours. And remember, family, all articles that we present will be listed in our Facebook group, as well as on our website in the show notes. Before we get to our main event, I found a quote that I think is rather fitting for the article that we will be interviewing. This quote comes from the economist Thomas Sowell, who seems to have a little bit more conservative views than I do, but this quote is right on time. And he says, no one will really understand politics until they understand that politicians are not trying to solve our problems. They are trying to solve their own problems, of which getting elected and reelected are number 1 and number 2. Whatever is number 3 is far behind.
Time now for the main event.
In today's main event, we will be interviewing the article, Representative Joyce Beatty Gentrified Her Way into Political Trouble, published on March 3rd, 2020, written by Matthew Cunningham-Cook for the Intercept. This week, Daoud will ask the questions, and I will give the answers. So let's just dive right into the article.
For those of us who don't know, who are the Beattys?
Joyce and Otto Beatty have long been a power couple in Columbus. Otto Beatty served 20 years in the Ohio House before resigning in 1999, immediately before being forced out due to term limits. Joyce Beatty was appointed to take his seat, rising to become minority leader, and since 2012, the city's congressional representative. In 2013, Representative Joyce Beatty and her husband made a significant profit on a property sold to a developer, while her husband sat on the zoning board that approved the sale, according to public records and meeting minutes reviewed by the Intercept.
The core of your article focuses on business dealings of Otto Beatty. How is he involved in ushering in the gentrification of Columbus?
Otto Beatty has been the longtime vice chair of the Downtown Commission, a zoning board which has enabled a transformation of the city's downtown. While Otto Beatty did not vote on the question, he did not disclose that he was discussing the sale of the building to Lifestyle at the time, only that he was the owner of the land, and Lifestyle would do the developing. The condos that were developed had no affordable housing requirements, despite an estimated shortage of 35,625 low-income rental units in Columbus. The condos rent from $1,600 for a 700 square foot one-bedroom apartment.
How did the Beattys benefit from this land sale?
The inflated price of the sale of the Beatty building contrasts from the price that the similar Troutman building immediately next door sold to Lifestyle Communities just 6 months earlier. The Troutman parcels were sold by the city's nonprofit development corporation for $750,000. The Beatty building next door, however, sold for $800,000, despite being assessed at $510,000.
How unethical was this process?
This appears to be a classic case of self-dealing by a government official, said Craig Holman, an ethics lobbyist with good government advocacy group Public Citizen. As a member of the Downtown Commission, Otto Beatty is expected to recuse himself from taking official actions that provide direct and substantial personal enrichment to himself or his immediate family. Recusal doesn't mean you just don't vote. It means you remove yourself from the whole process. The fact that he expressed support for the project carries influence with his fellow colleagues. He should have stated straightforwardly that he had a conflict of interest and removed himself from the discussion.
Was real estate deals Joyce Beatty's only unfair advantage?
During Representative Joyce Beatty's time as State House Minority Leader, The couple attracted controversy due to Otto Beatty's work as a lobbyist for a payday lending firm, as the Ohio legislature was considering broad-reaching bipartisan reforms to the payday lending. Beatty opposed the reforms. Like Otto Beatty, Joyce Beatty was term limited out of her state house seat, which represented the Ohio State University. Beatty, after leaving the office, went to work for OSU. That position's salary allowed her to inflate her pension from the state of Ohio to over $250,000 annually.
What is happening as a result of these business dealings?
Joyce Beatty is now facing an insurgent primary challenger whose viability is driven in significant part, ironically, by gentrification. The high cost of living has fueled anger among longtime residents, and the new residents, the gentrifiers, have been harnessed in other races as a force to upend the status quo. In 2018, gentrifying neighborhoods provided Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's margin of victory over incumbent Joe Crowley, and those type of neighborhoods are likely to side heavily in Columbus with the challenger, Morgan Harper.
Has being a congresswoman helped or hurt Beatty?
While in Congress, Joyce Beatty's estimated net worth has increased from $2.6 million to over $10 million, according to the data collected by the Center for Responsive Politics. As of 2016, she was the 35th wealthiest member of the House.
The next day, the Beattys responded to the Intercept's piece. In an interview Thursday entitled Representative Joyce Beatty Calls Morgan Harper's Attack on Real Estate Deal Desperate, written by co-writers Anna Staver and Rick Ruan for the Columbus Dispatch.
Joyce Beatty called both the article and Harper's attack a distortion of her husband's record and a desperate thing to do. Wednesday night was a clear demonstration of a candidate who put politics before people, Beatty said of Harper.
Otto Beatty had called the article Dirty Politics. The idea that Joyce Beatty had anything to do with me getting a certain price for this property is ridiculous, he said.
Joyce Beatty said of Harper, I think that was a desperate thing to do to attack my husband. While she talked about the property, she wasn't here to understand that was a huge revitalization.
I think it's very naive for anyone to think that your votes alone and your thoughts alone can get anything accomplished, Joyce Beatty said. I think that's because she doesn't know the district and she doesn't have real answers on civility and how to get legislation passed.
Well, that completes this interview. Thank you for your time and information. Listeners, you can read this full article on our website in this week's show notes.
Coming up, we have the commentary on this article. Do we agree with it? What grade do we give it? Do we like it? Do we hate it? Stay tuned.
Liking the show so far? One of the best ways to support this show is to leave us a rating on iTunes. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you, and we thank you for your support, and we thank you for clicking that subscribe button. You're family now, so come on in and make yourself at home. My commentary on this article brings me back to my automatic voting. I voted for Joyce Beatty automatically the entire time she's been in office. So I'm very surprised that to hear these type of dealings were going on. I can understand how they got things done because people weren't paying attention. Voters weren't paying attention. So I was a part of that environment that helped her continue to ignore the Black community and get the Black community's vote at the same time. So I was a part of that process. I'm glad I'm much smarter in my voting strategy these days. Another thing that I want to point out, by them not having affordable housing clauses in these deals, made it abundantly clear that they did not want poor Black people, disenfranchised Black people in downtown Columbus. How, as a Black political candidate, can you not want Black people in these spaces or ensure that Black people will be in these spaces? How can you be a champion for the 3rd District or anybody in Ohio that wanted a better place to live, a safer place to live? How could you not advocate for them to have at least 50 units, 100 units of affordable housing?
See, I gotta thank you. That was phenomenal. I'm sorry. That was phenomenal. And that's what I said earlier about, you being the newbie is so important. I commend you for apologizing for not acting like a full citizen. But I really applaud how you have embraced being a full citizen by being aware of these things. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound condescending or anything like that, because it was just not too long ago you were saying, well, I'm not used to expressing myself and having an opinion. You made me want to jump up and holler right there. That's powerful. And that's what everybody's capable of. And I really appreciate seeing you voice yourself so solidly on that issue, hitting critical points that are important to her voters and constituents. And I'm so happy that you've done that. I really am.
Thank you.
Given what you were telling me last week, I'm not. You're almost convincing me you're not. I knew that you were capable, but I didn't know that you'd do it so well. That was great.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I got nothing more to say. You shut me up.
Oh, okay. Well,
you hit it on the nose.
The end of the article, and I want to end on this, the amount of benefits that the Beattys, but in particular Joyce Beatty, has received from not only business dealings around Columbus, but just being in Congress has increased her net worth triple time. Her district is at the bottom of all key points: housing, education, food deserts, lack of affordable housing. Did I already say housing?
Doesn't matter. You'll edit it out.
We're at the bottom and she is at the top. In the article, it states that she started in Congress already with $2.6 million. So that means she was already a class enemy. How do we know this? Yvette Carnell. So she was already in a position of being a class enemy to us. She's already has no incentive to make our lives better, but to maintain her life. Mm-hmm. As we can see, hers increased, ours decreased. So I'm looking forward to see what the primary election brings. Morgan Harper, who has been so supportive of ADOS here in Columbus, who has never wavered from her support of ADOS, never wavered for her support of reparations. I'm looking forward to a new era of politics in Columbus. I'm looking forward to Columbus having better representation.
Amen.
That's it for this week's main event. All links and articles will be listed in our show notes and in our Facebook group.
Today in Voices of ADOS, we are showcasing T.J. Garner, a voice from our local chapter, ADOS Columbus, where she's been a strong advocate for a Black agenda.
The reason why I wanted to view you're a part of the same ADOS group that we first started a year or so ago. And I always admire your passion towards Black empowerment and reparations. Whenever we have a meeting, you would, give your opinion on it. And I just wanted to give our listeners a view of other ADOS voices. What led you to come out and participate with ADOS Columbus?
Well, I always wanted to advocate for our people. I just wanted to be a part of a movement that actually felt the same way that, I was feeling in the world, the things that were going on, in our community, just all over the world regarding, Black folk. And I didn't have a specific, name for us people. I always felt that we were different, but I just didn't have a name for it. And when this group came about, I just grew interested in wanting to be, a part of it and to know more and more about the organization, and then see where it was going to, see where it was going to, go forward. So that's why I became involved.
Did you have any experience before in activism?
I did not. I've read books, seen documentaries, but no, never had any experience. But, being in this organization, I hope it does give me the experience. I do want to advocate, because, there are a lot of inequalities that are, toward us ADOS folk.
In these, I would say, year and a half or so since the ADOS movement has gained traction, do you see ADOS building from where it started from?
I do. I do see it building and moving forward and becoming stronger. And I want to be more active, when it does become stronger. And I want to contribute more than what I've been contributing, definitely. I'm really a behind-the-scenes person, but, hopefully I can, get out there and show my face and, be more active in the movement.
Prior to ADOS, what would you say was your political leaning?
I really didn't have a good political view. I always went with, the common folk, whatever was said, in the news. That's how I would, lean toward. I didn't really have a good political view. And honestly, listening to Yvette Carnell, Breaking Brown, listening to Tone Talks, I've been educated.
In the press and in online, we've gotten a lot of pushback because we have defined ourselves. Do you think that's unfair as other people claim who they are?
I don't think we are divisive by no means, by any means. I don't think we're divisive. Mm-hmm. We are different. We built this country. We come from slavery. Our ancestors, worked for free for 400 plus years. Just because someone has, as Yvette Carnell would say, my pigment of skin color, black, and my kinky hair doesn't make you me. You don't come from my lineage of slavery. So I don't feel that we are xenophobic by any means because, an African person who comes from Africa or from the continent, they state where they're from. I'm from America. I was brought over here and we built this country. So we are different. Mm-hmm. And that's what, led me to this movement because I, didn't have a name, didn't know. I knew I was different, but I didn't have a name for it. But it fits. And that's why I've remained in the movement and I like what's going on. So yeah, we are different and we're not xenophobic by no means.
How would you say the ADOS movement fits in with the Democratic Party?
We can fit in with the Democratic Party if they're willing to have a Black agenda, specifically for ADOS folk who comes from slavery. Not people of color, not Latino, Hispanic, or the Asian population or the East Indian population, which are Asian as well. They have an agenda for everyone else, but they will not give us an agenda or listen to our agenda. So that's the only way that I feel that we can fit in with the Democratic Party.
What advice would you give to someone that's sitting on the fence and not sure they want to get involved with ADOS?
What advice I would give? I would say at least get involved to get the political education, see what ADOS is about. If there's something that you don't agree with, ask questions, and then we can, then someone in the movement can give you an answer why we do things the way that we do.
Since you started with ADOS Columbus, what has your experience been with reaching out to politicians, trying to get the information to the people in our community about our reparations plan and the Black agenda?
Well, my experience is that I've canvassed for a local candidate, Morgan Harper, because she's running for the 3rd district here in Columbus locally. And, I've shared my views to her as well as people that canvassed for her in regards to the ADOS agenda. That's my only experiences as far as, going out in the community.
Did you meet with any resistance when you did that?
I didn't meet any resistance. It's just, a lot of people just listen to what, I had to say. I can't say that this was a resistance, but, one of the young ladies that I was, speaking to, she had mentioned Bernie. And I had mentioned that, I don't think he's for reparations, And she was like, well, he has a good plan in regards to, you know, eliminating school debt. I said, well, yeah, that's good. I said, but, you know, I need something more specific towards, you know, my people collectively, not just for everybody. And really no resistance, but everything was just quiet. Nothing was basically said. But I don't know if she got the point or not, but, you know, me helping her out, helping Morgan Harper out, I did let her know that, you know, I'm specifically for, you know, my folk, ADOS folk, period. And if you are, then, you know, I'm on board to help you out and get you into office.
Final words on the movement, Black empowerment, or anything that you want the people to know?
Well, yes, in regards to, you know, Black empowerment, I've always, you know, voiced my opinion about, you know, collectively, you know, getting something for Black folk. I didn't have a name for it at the time, but, you know, I just want everyone to know that, for me, Black empowerment is policies, you know, that aim to give ADOS people, folk, the chance to, you know, earn more money, own more property, and just have a greater role in the economy, you know, than we did before. So that's my, you know, definition of, you know, Black empowerment.
And do you feel that ADOS is a way to go to obtain that?
I believe so. Since we've defined ourselves, which is a good definition, I believe, yes, that is the way to go. And I think we're going to move toward that if we, you know, stay focused and, you know, keep pushing on and demand that, you know, we are owed this debt.
Thanks, TJ. Voices like yours are what's needed in our community. If you're asking yourself, how can I be featured in the Voices segment? It's easy. Head to our website, articlesofados.com. Click the Send Us a Message button. It's on the right side of the page. Find a quiet place and hit record.
And if you're featured in our Voices of ADOS segment, you will receive our promo pack, which includes...
It includes stuff with our name slapped on the side of it, pins, bookmarks, and a special surprise. There you have it, family. Another week, another show. Thanks for joining us on the Articles of ADOS podcast. Make sure to visit our website, articlesofados.com, where you can join our mailing list, see the show notes for today's episode, and to leave us a voice message to be featured on the show.
Now that you're family, we'd love it if you'd like our Facebook page and join our private Articles of ADOS group. This is where you can connect with other listeners, give feedback, and share articles you would like us to discuss.
If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, send us an email to listeners@articlesofados.com. Be sure to tune in next Thursday for a new episode of Undiscussed News you may have missed. So until next time, peace, fam.